Hi there, this is The Green Show, and I am your host, Ashok Khosla. To be or not to be, that was the question that troubled Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. But the princes of today run corporations, not states. And with all the benefits they confer on society, there is yet something rotten in the world of business. Waste, pollution, and resource degradation. The question to business is no longer to be, but rather foresee. They will introduce their own machinery to foresee the future and introduce cleaner production, or will they have to be forced to do so by the public? Foresight and strategic planning do not easily come to executives whose primary concern is the bottom line for the next quarter. But the marketplace is not only efficient, it is brutal. Businesses that do not stay one step ahead of the impending resource and environment crunch will soon be out of business. Each week, The Green Show brings you the latest information on issues that strike at the very heart of business survival and success.
In this edition of The Green Show, we have Sanctuary for Sale, another instance of commercial pressures eating into our protected reserves. Petro Crops, the use of latex as an industrial input. And Root Zone, nature's own effluent treatment system.
The frontier is no longer where it used to be, over the horizon. Each day, we are confronted by the limits of our planet's resources. Survival, even in the short term, is now widely recognized to be a matter of wiser use of nature's bounties. But where does the trade-off between conservation and industrial growth lie? And who should decide on the costs to be paid and the benefits to be gained? The Narayan Sarovar sanctuary, spread over the Kutch region, is a classic example of the conflict between commercial pressures and conservation values. This is where unique ecosystems like the thorn forest and endangered species like the chinkara coexist with rich deposits of limestone and lignite, the raw materials of high-quality cement. Now, environmentalists have locked horns with industry and the state government. We travel to Kutch to take a closer look at the issues involved.
The battle lines that are usually drawn between development and environment are often a direct fallout of a general misconception regarding the relationship between the two. That relationship is usually misunderstood because wildlife and forest reserves, the storehouse of biodiversity, have a worth that does not lend itself as easily to assessments of market value as do mineral deposits. And so the race is on to accommodate industrial growth at the expense of indigenous flora and fauna. While poverty and population pressure does accord a primacy to the need to increase income growth, how much we can accommodate industrial growth concerns at the expense of our invaluable biodiversity is a matter of intense debate. Protected areas are denotified so that industry can access the mineral resources in those areas. The classic example of commercial pressure pushing back the bounds of protected areas is Narayan Sarovar Sanctuary. Located at the western tip of Gujarat, this is the last original Kutch thorn forest. The mixed forest comprises of dry savanna desert thorn, acacia and shrubs. Covering an area of over 30,000 hectares, this is a unique and fragile ecosystem which is home to many endangered species like the caracal, the desert cat, Indian wolf, pangolin, the great Indian bustard and the chinkara. The park takes its name from the Narayan Sarovar temple around which the park was notified. The proximity to the sea attracts rare migratory birds to the sanctuary. The sanctuary also happens to be rich in minerals, lignite being one of them. The Gujarat Mineral Development Corporation has been operating a lignite mine in Panendro, which is inside the park. The other important mineral here is limestone. The area is estimated to have a whopping 5,435 million tons of limestone deposits. And it is this limestone which is at the heart of the current controversy. The original sanctuary declared in 1981 was 765 square kilometers. In July 1993, the government of Gujarat in one single stroke denotified the sanctuary to a fragmented 94 square kilometers, thus paving the way for Sanghi Industries to set up a state-of-the-art mega cement plant to be fed by the limestone deposits in the area. The move may have made economic sense to the Gujarat government, but environmentalists were up in arms against the move.
I think one of the first things they need to understand is the value of all wilderness, which is something that's rapidly disappearing with increasing urbanization in any case. So the value of wilderness, one always thinks it's always there, but it's just disappearing. So the concept of space or of biodiversity is something that is there in the back of our minds, but it's going to be lost very soon because of increasing urbanization and industrialization. So we want to stop that before it's too late. So the one thing that helps to preserve these original landscapes, original areas where native biodiversity is preserved, is through the protected area system, which relies on the concept of in situ conservation. So unless people learn to value this wilderness, value the fact that wildlife and the original landscapes, if they wish to have any vestiges of it with them, they've got to act soon before it's too late.
The villages of the Kutch area, long neglected by the developmental efforts of the government, however, view the entry of heavy industries in their area as a harbinger of better times.
All this activity has created jobs for many people. Only when it rains do we have any work. Most of the time, however, we have to go elsewhere and work as casual laborers. The government comes to our rescue only during droughts. We are forced to sit idle 10 months in a year. How are we to feed our families? We have to have some work. This area is full of limestone. If industries come and mine this, it will be good for the area. There are not many chinkaras in the area. And anyway, humans are more important than chinkaras. Humans die of starvation too. When the rains fail, we have to leave. Today Sanghis are coming. Tomorrow many more will follow. This is what I have been told.
This hope is based on the promises that industry is holding out as the positive spin-offs of their presence in the area. Sanghi Industries, for instance, says their cement plant will provide direct employment to 5,000 workers of the area. They further insist that they will do their bit in improving the infrastructure and delivery of the basic necessities to the local population. But past experiences indicate that such promises are as real as a mirage in the desert.
What sort of benefits are going to flow to the people of that area? We were definitely very concerned about that. And for the answer to that, we went to the government-owned Mining Development Corporation, Gujarat Mineral Development Corporation, which already has a mine that's been operating for 20 years in Panandro, which is again in the sanctuary, and was there prior to the notification of the sanctuary in 1981. Now, 20 years have passed, and there's really been no evidence of any kind of real development in that area. You have trucks, you have tea shops, you have people in that same state of poverty as they were 20 years ago. They still get casual employment at 20, 22 rupees a day. But that's all they can look forward to. The conditions are abysmal. So if more of this kind of mining is going to happen in Kutch, all the mining is going to happen there. The people are going to be employed as laborers for the next 20 years.
Environmentalists are creating issues out of non-issues, issues which are not existent for their own selfish gains, and they are definitely coming in the way of development of the country, progress of the country, and they are sometimes anti-people also.
But the court thought otherwise. Taking notice of a public interest litigation, the Gujarat High Court reverted the sanctuary back to its original status a couple of months ago. Following that move, an attempt was made by all the concerned parties to evolve a compromise, whereby a small part of the sanctuary would be denotified for industries to come in. The proposed compromise formula had held out a hope that a rational trade-off could be struck between the need to protect the ecosystem and the imperatives of development. But a recent announcement by the new Gujarat government has belied all such hopes. The state government has indicated that it is in favor of denotifying the whole sanctuary to a mere 94 square kilometers. And moves are afoot to legitimize the whole process by getting it ratified by the state legislature. The debate may go on for quite some time. But one fact that has been highlighted by this case is the absolute apathy of Indian industry towards environmental concerns. The industrial juggernaut will roll on, smothering any opposition that comes in its way. And to that end, it is ready to use all the resources it has at its disposal. This attitude is a reflection of the myopic interpretation of the meaning of development by business and policy makers. A development strategy that favors heavy industrialization at the cost of national parks and sanctuaries cannot sustain itself over the long term.
With each hike in the price of petroleum, scientists renew their efforts to find a natural substitute for oil. One of the most promising candidates is euphorbia, a thorny, succulent plant that looks like a cactus and grows in abundance in the wild, even in arid regions. In Hindi, it is called thor. Euphorbia is one of nature's green factories, often classed as a petroplant. Its milky latex yields fuels, as well as a variety of products including adhesives, paints, and coatings that resist corrosion and moisture. The Sri Ram Institute of Industrial Research, based in Delhi, has spent 9 years perfecting processes to make low-cost coatings and composites that could well transform the construction of rural houses.
With increasing pollution and the fast depleting natural resources becoming more and more manifest,
we are fascinated by the idea put forward by Nobel laureate Melvin Kelvin in 1973. During the oil embargo, he put forward the thesis that latex from the cactus which is growing wildly in the desert, can be degraded or cracked down to get a petroleum-like substances. And he called this cactus the green factories or Petro Crops. We took his idea and we modified it further. We decided if this latex from the cactus, after cracking or degradation, gives you the petroleum-like substance, then why to crack or degrade it? It is in between the petroleum and the final polymeric materials which are used by the community. So we decided we should characterize the cactus latex as such and find out that various polymeric products which we can get.
the scientists at Sri Ram Institute have now perfected the process of producing a wide range of low-cost commercial products from latex, like water emulsion paints, water-resistant coatings, moisture and corrosion-resistant finishes, and jute latex composite boards.
The products made out of it are from renewable source. That is, it is environment friendly. That we are taking a material from environment and using it and making a product and then using again into our day-to-day life. And they are cheap because the cost of the latex is from, it's not that labor intensive. It is coming out from a plant. We are only giving, it's only the collection cost. So it would be cheap. These products would be definitely cheaper than the products existing in the market.
Machinery. And since it is an agro-based industry, it is ideally suited for the rural economy.
Sriram Institute philosophy is the scientists should interact with the societies, scientists should interact with the community, scientists should interact with the industry, find out their problems and find out the solutions. And if you are doing it, you know what are exactly the problems faced by the community. And this is the major problem to the community. We have to give the employment opportunities to the villagers. We have to make them environmental conscious. At the same time, his quality of life should go above. And this is the only purpose for which the science and technology should exist in India.
The scientists at the Sri Ram Institute are now in the process of selecting villages to give demonstration of the new technology which can set up a new cottage industry. This will help the development of the wastelands and at the same time provide a cleaner environment in the areas where these plants grow. These cacti, which grow freely in arid and semi-arid zones, have not been commercially grown up till now, because there was little awareness regarding its potential benefits. But the efforts at the Sri Ram Institute labs point to the immense possibilities of the euphorbia plants. All the products that can be manufactured from the latex resins are in effect a more eco-friendly and cost-effective alternative to some or the other existing products.
Every town, every industry, and indeed every economic activity uses water. By the time the water runs its course through the whole chain of production, processing, and packaging, it is usually quite contaminated with pollutants. If it is discharged in this condition, it can cause irreversible damage to the groundwater and soil. So it must be treated to a level that nature's cleansing capacity can deal with. The government has made it mandatory for every plant that uses water to have an effluent treatment plant within its premises. Conventional treatment plants need a lot of electric power to stir the sludge and oxidize it. But we now have a greener alternative, the root zone approach, nature's own technology using wetland plants to purify water without the need for machines. We take you to Pune for an on-the-spot report.
The safe disposal of the effluents generated by industries is one of the key areas of environment management. The mandatory effluent treatment plant at each industrial unit is one of the filters that ensures that wastewater is cleansed of its pollutants before it is disposed of. Wastewater is conventionally treated by the activated sludge process. In this system, the effluent is passed through various stages of filtration, decantation, and decomposition before it becomes safe enough for nature to accept. The process itself is quite simple. However, there is one catch to it. This system consumes a lot of energy in terms of the electricity required to drive the plant. The operating costs of this system of water treatment is further boosted by the requirements of constant monitoring. Yet a low-cost alternative exists. an alternative that essentially duplicates nature's own cleansing system under controlled conditions. The system is based on the use of a particular species of wetland plants that are a part of nature's effluent treatment process. Developed in the 60s in Germany, the root zone process was brought to India by Thermax, one of the country's leading environment management companies.
We were looking for some new technology, something which would be unique, something could be environment friendly. We came across this technology from Denmark called root zone. Root zone is basically a technology which is done by nature. The bacteria in the earth will act on the wastewater and they will treat the water. The roots provide atmosphere which is conducive to this kind of treatment. This system is rather simple, fit and forget type. There is no maintenance, there is no power consumption. So it's very easy to operate, very easy to install, very easy to maintain. In fact, practically there is no maintenance.
The root zone system comprises of 3 interlinked components: the phragmite reeds, the reed bed, and the microbial organisms that breed in the reed bed. The reeds, which have hollow stems, absorb oxygen from the ambient air and transport it to the root zone, and thus create optimal conditions for the growth of numerous bacteria and fungi in the reed bed. The reed bed is a 2 feet deep trench that is lined with clay or plastic sheets to prevent seepage of the effluents into the surrounding groundwater. The area of the plantation is dependent on the amount of wastewater that has to be treated. The soil is carefully selected to provide optimal conditions for both plant and bacterial growth. The heart of the root zone process is the biodiversity that thrives around the roots of the reeds. More than 2,000 types of bacteria and tens of thousands of fungi exist in the reed bed. And it is these microorganisms that clean the water by oxidizing the impurities present in the effluent. Aerobic and anaerobic reactions take place side by side underground. As a result, there are no strong odors or sludge formation in a root zone system. What comes out of this constructed marsh is treated wastewater that is not only environmentally acceptable, but also much cleaner than that achieved by any other technique.
The efficacy of any effluent treatment system is that the treated water should be able to sustain aquatic life for more than 96 hours. In other words, the water that is coming out from an effluent treatment plant should be capable of growing fish in. The effluent treatment systems, which are built with the help of root zone, are so good that they can be used for growing fisheries. So in other words, the domestic sewage can be taken, treated through a root zone system, and the clean water that comes out can be used either for gardening or for land beautification or for even growing as fisheries. In fact, our collaborators grow fish in the water that comes out of the effluent treatment system based on root zone.
The root zone system combines filtering, precipitation and biological degradation in one single purification step. There are no operating costs for energy, chemical additives or instrumented controls. It is a self-regenerating system since plant growth sustains itself in the reed bed. Based on trials at their own chemicals plant, Thermax claims that a root zone system can sustain itself for more than 50 years. The root zone, however, is not a standalone solution to the problem of industrial effluent. Firstly, it is more suited for the treatment of organic wastes. Also, the land requirements of the system is quite large. To overcome these drawbacks, Thermax offers a combination of the conventional activated sludge process and the root zone system as a complete solution. While primary and secondary treatment, which makes up 70% of the process, is done by the mechanical setup, the final polishing off is taken care of by the root zone. The end result, instead of merely dischargeable water, the system yields recyclable water. The spin-offs: lower power consumption and lesser maintenance requirements. The fact that the plants literally provide a green look to the landscape is an extra bonus. The efficacy of the root zone technology has been proved by the 500 systems in operation all across the globe. It is time Indian industry took a closer look at the possibilities of a process that is in essence nature's answer to the modern industrialized world's pollution problems.
Industry gives us the many products we now need merely to survive. and the jobs to earn the incomes we need to pay for these. But it is also like a hungry monster, devouring large quantities of raw materials with an insatiable appetite. Our growing standard of living means that our demands on nature's resources are also constantly growing. But these resources are finite, and no technology breakthrough will increase them very much. Industrial growth has the seeds of its own limits built in, and these limits are already beginning to show in problems of pollution, waste disposal, and climate change on the one hand, and poverty, unemployment, and marginalization on the other. Let us strengthen our capacity to innovate and design a better future.